call tonight's meeting to order. It is 6 o'clock on August 15th. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Do we have any additions for the agenda this evening?
We do. The addition of a substitute bus driver under personnel.
Okay. Anything else? Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the organizational meeting of July 15th and the regular meeting of July 15th.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussion on either? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent. It's three.
Are we moving?
Nope, sorry. I skipped it.
No.
I like to skip things in meetings, apparently. It was the longer thing.
You're going to be quick, right?
We're not doing a consent agenda, so scratch that. Not yet. We're going to go to the district presentation. Sorry about that. We'll turn it over to
Check.
King and King.
All right, I'm just going to stand over here if you don't mind.
Yes.
Place to put my notes. Hi, everyone. Chad Rogers from King and King. I think we've all met at various events at times over the years. Paul Johnson couldn't be here tonight. He's wrapping up a professional development course, his last course of the night, this time. So I'm filling in, but I've been involved with Paul and our team and Bill and Matt and the district team for throughout the last capital project, and now we're looking at the next one. So that's really the intent of our purpose of my quick presentation tonight, is just to bring you up to speed on where we are in the process for the next capital project, and then answer any questions that you may have about the process or otherwise. So I think you all have a handout that dated August 15th at the top. I'm just gonna, I won't read all this, but I'll run through the key points. And then, jump in with any questions. So, as an update, in 2022, we completed the building condition survey. That's mandatory every 5 years, as you probably know. That survey gives us important data and is a part of the long-range plan. But the building condition survey really looks at infrastructure only. It looks at every component of buildings, roofs, foundations, systems. It's really infrastructure specific. So it's one piece of the puzzle that needs to work, that needs to be done, or would be part of a capital project. Coming out of that, we've been working since then and recently wrapped up long-range plan. And that takes the BCS items, the infrastructure items, but it adds on any district educational programming needs. There's a lot of discussion with facilities group. For other items, we talk about safety, security, we talk about sustainable energy savings opportunities, and we wrap that all into a 5-year long-range plan that we use as the basis to prioritize work scope items for the next capital project. So in the big picture, if we took all the items in the long-range plan, it's like $57 million worth of work for this K-12 school building, which is not unusual. For every district we work with like 60 around the state. There's always more work to be done than you can pay for. It's just the way New York State sets it up. They've got it down to a science. So, as you probably remember from the last capital plan project, it requires some prioritization, a lot of discussions around, all right, we have a budget of $24 million. We have $57 million of work that we could do. What is the priority? What are we going to include in the capital project? And that's the point we are at right now, is we've identified all the work items, and we're having various meetings and discussions around prioritizing those and building scope for the next capital project. That $24 million breaks down, that's your maximum cost allowance. So your fiscal advisors give that information to us based on district statistics, right? And and past debt that you have coming off. That's basically a 5-year cycle as well. That 24 million is made up of about 19.5 million of hard construction cost and about 4.5 million of what they define as incidentals. Incidentals do include a portion of construction costs, and that's site work. So site work is in that incidental bucket. All their building related work is in the hard construction, the 19.5 million. So in the 4.5 million, we have any site work we want to do. And we also have other soft costs that will be part of your project, right? So architectural fees, construction manager fees, legal fees, insurances, etc. We always leave a little contingency there as well, so that ultimately when we determine a scope and you approve a referendum amount, that we know that that referendum amount cannot be exceeded for any reason. So we always have some allowance of our contingency in there to be able to deal with surprises or other things that happen during construction. So just a couple quick highlights of that $57 million total. Construction prices being what they are. Some of the numbers sound high, but we use the data that we have from previous projects and working with the construction manager as well to develop some of the numbers. We know we can't do all of these, but some of the larger ones that are in that potential 57 million are things like a complete auditorium renovation. That would be everything except the seating. The seating was done fairly recently, but the rest of the auditorium was not at the time. Complete gut reno in the auditorium, $7.5 million. One of the other items that was talked about was the Ag Suite. So complete renovation of Ag Suite, potentially even enlarging it using the where these meetings used to occur, and near the superintendent's office or the district office. About $4.5 million for that whole scope. Stadium concession toilet building potentially, if desired, 1.6 mil total cost. These numbers are construction costs today, plus 15% contingency because we haven't designed it yet, plus 20% incidentals, so that'd be an incidental piece of it. And then we also put in a escalation multiplier because we won't be bidding this work for a couple of years, so we try to escalate and predict as best we can what the construction cost increase are going to be there. So it doesn't pop the numbers up a little bit, but usually at the end of the day, we're pretty much in the ballpark. Another thought was if the entire primary wing needed to be renovated, it's like a $13 million number. So obviously we know we can't do all these things, and there's a long list of those items. And we don't have to do the entire piece of each of them. So there's always ways to break it down and work together to get to a budget. But that's the point we are at right now, is prioritizing, working to a budget. We've got this great spreadsheet that we can put things in, take them out, see where we are on the total, and work together and see. It's really easy to swap things in and out and build that up.
So, quick question with the auditorium. Does that include like stage, curtains, lighting? Like that's everything minus
that
the
would
seating?
that would be everything.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So pretty expensive space, but it would include.
But it includes all that. Okay.
Yeah. So we're going to be continuing to work through that process, but a little bit about the timeline of that process, ideally. So what happens is that your maximum cost allowance, that $24 million that you have to spend, is all available to the district after January 2027. So we originally were contemplating maybe a December vote potentially, but now we're looking at maybe at a spring, March through May vote. And the reason for that change in time to vote was to capture some more budget from the maximum cost allowance because of the timing of past projects. I think if you remember, the last capital project was like 3 phases. So we are able to reset that maximum cost allowance 5 years after the last project was approved by the commissioners. Basically, the building permit was approved. So if we fast forward 5 years to what will be our next project, that complete maximum cost allowance, 24 million, will be available following January 8th, I believe, of 2027. So we're trying to set up a timing whereby we have time for pre-referendum process and working out the final scope, and you'll see that at the bottom of this. Getting through the requirements to get to the referendum vote, which includes some environmental review, and other items, having the vote, and then design time following that. So we've got a year or so to complete the construction documents, bid documents for the project once the vote is approved by the voters. And then we submit to SED, State Education Department. Right now, the review times are continuing to spike up. Review times are approaching 7 to 8 months in some cases. So we have to build that time in as well. We can't start construction until we go through that process. So that's all the dates you see at the bottom, and it's really building back from when that maximum cost allowance money is available, and you get to pull a building permit for that amount of money. And therefore, March, April, or May would be a great time for a vote on that, should the board decide to do so. That's my discussion in a nutshell, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions.
Are there, on the big list of 57 million, are there things on there like when the roof was in such dire repair? Are there things on there that we should make sure of so that we don't end up with leaking?
Yeah.
Obviously, not leaking, but situations similar to that?
Yeah, so that's definitely part of our prioritization process of, and when we do the BCS, part of the building condition survey is literally there's categories for every component of the building, right? And then the current lifespan remaining, right? So we might identify something that has 5 years left. We might have other things on there that have 15 years left that would not be in this project. So we'll look at those items that are closest to the end of their useful life, and that's a discussion amongst design team, but also with facilities, because they know the building better than anybody. So we'll take input from them as well. Like we really got an issue here. We got to make sure we address this.
Okay.
But no, we're doing pretty good on this item. It's got 10 years left. Let's save that for the next project in 5 years or 10 years.
Okay, thank you.
I know the heating and cooling is a big issue in the auditorium, and when you are identifying issues in spaces, are we able to say break those down into different if we want to do it, address the more sort of pertinent issues,
Yeah.
and maybe we can afford
Yeah.
the whole renovation.
Yeah.
Is that something that we can
Yeah,
look at as well?
for sure, and we'll help advise. So a lot of times, right, the best time to do a heating and cooling project renovation is also with a renovation of the space.
Yeah.
Because then you're getting it all done at once, you're planning it at once, it's the most efficient way to do it. But in some cases, there are things that can easily be pulled out, and we certainly can work through those if, and that's the process we're going through now. Is we know we can't afford everything, so if there's things that are critical, we want to do those, and then we want to talk about preferences, right? Because we know we won't be able to satisfy everything, but certainly can break things apart like that, right? We don't necessarily need to do the entire primary wing. Maybe there is a set of classrooms, right? And while we're renovating those, we can look at doing the HVAC there as well. So it can be phased. We're helping, we will help with that.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand sort of how that cost fits into when we're prioritizing which renovations to do. And Bill, I know we have access to the building condition survey, right?
Yes.
Are these sort of breakdowns that Chad's going through, is that in that building
Mhm.
survey? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the infrastructure, the facility specific items are in there.
Yeah.
Right? So it might not, it doesn't necessarily take the auditorium as a whole, right? It will take just the components of the spaces and buildings. So it would identify if there's an HVAC issue or there's roof issues. Or,
And then
to give an example, but
through discussions with Chad and his team, and then internally, auditorium lights or sound. You won't see those in the building condition survey,
right.
But that's something that we would identify and prioritize or not. you know, do we want air conditioning in the auditorium? Do we want, you know, the cafeteria? So all of those things are through discussions internally and with you, with this team, and then with Chad's team.
And what is the timeframe of setting those priorities? With respect to, say, if we're, you know, setting up for a vote?
So like.
We'd want to do early fall, right?
Yeah, so if you get down to like the third section,
Second.
potential next steps,
Mhm.
item 2, 3, and 4 are really a early fall timeframe where we zero in on what our scope is going to be. Because that allows us time to get through the environmental process, the seeker, state environmental quality review process, do any public outreach that the district wants to do, and give enough time leading up to the vote.
I guess my
This
biggest, oh, sorry. My biggest questions for Matt really is the timing of a vote and how that will impact a regular school budget vote and what our concerns or worries are around that.
That's a good question.
Because that's my concern looking at the time
So
frame.
I think you can ask different officials from a range of different districts. I know Chad could attest that different districts do different things. Our last capital project vote we did in December as a standalone vote. Other districts tend to do them in May as a separate proposition on their annual, like we do with our buses. Some districts do
So if
separate propositions for buses in March every year.
So if that's the case, if you do it at the same time as the budget vote as an extra proposition, the school budget could pass and this could be, I don't want it to turn down, obviously,
Yes.
right? But this could be turned down, but the budget would not be affected.
Yeah, it's totally
Separate,
separate proposition.
That's just the piece that I needed to make
And
sure.
obviously, we would present it and we would know the fiscal impact, both for next year, the immediate impact on the budget that's up for vote, as well as subsequent years, as we did with the last budget.
All right, that just helps me understand how that process would work at that time.
Chad, can you talk a little bit about the bus garage and how that's a separate?
Sure.
sort of,
Yeah, I didn't mention the bus garage, but.
I was
it's
gonna
probably-
ask, but I wasn't sure if I should. I was debating.
So that is not part of the $24 million MCA. The
Yeah.
$24 million MCA is just for the K-12 school building. The bus garage does not have a limit on maximum cost. Bus garages do not. So that stands alone. And we're weighing some options, but the bus garage is in pretty poor shape, as you probably know. And so really the worst case scenario there would be take down the bus garage. What we'll do at the time is get as much site work as we can with that project, because that site work all around related to that would be part of the bus garage piece and would not affect the $24 million MCA. That's like a $5 million total right now.
The bus garage has its own BCS as well, so
It does.
it was a completely separate survey done for the bus garage, as was the K-12 building, two separate buildings. You technically have two separate building commissions in this. You can all those major infrastructure and systems for bus garage.
There's a lot of variables that could affect the bus garage as well with the EV bus initiatives. And so those are discussions that we're having. You know, what makes sense? What would that look like? So there's a lot to that.
Right, and it sort of stands alone
Yeah,
from discussions around this building.
yeah.
So as those discussions happen, does that mean there'd be 2 extra propositions if it was all done at the same
Mhm.
time?
So we would just tie it all together.
If decisions are made, then you try to do it together. Makes the most sense.
And I think just, and Chad, jump in and correct me if I'm mistaken, I'm trying to simplify this, but let's say paving. We weren't gonna touch the bus garage, and we wanted to do paving to any extent, that would come out of that $24 million cost allowance. And paving's expensive, taken out of that smaller fraction of the budget. But if we were doing bus garage work, working with Chad, and we could get creative to include, to some extent, some of that paving as part of the bus garage work, so it doesn't bleed into that. That's
It's integral to those operations, or that.
So there's,
Yeah.
it's just a minor example, well, not minor, a significant example of how working with these folks and being strategic and trying to maximize both the resources from a fiscal sense, but also in terms of what we're able to get done, and looking at what needs to be done.
Okay.
Paving, as you know, is driven out back, there's a need. And really, when we go through this, Bill and I, our team thinks, for every dollar that we're spending on things like paving, that's less that we have for instructional spaces and lanes and things of which. Finding that balance is what's
Other questions for Chad?
When you look at doing the paving, as Matt brought it up, is that when you'd also look at whether, because everything's all torn up, you need to put in new water lines or something like
Yeah,
that?
absolutely.
There,
Right.
yeah.
You
You
don't want to
dig it
come back
twice.
2 years later, rip up your
Yeah.
brand new paving.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So things like that, other things like thinking about, Bill brought up electric buses. Right?
Yeah.
That's a mandate by the state. I think the date may change, but
Yeah.
right now, there's a date on the calendar for the state for that, for districts to convert. So a lot of times we're seeing, when we're doing parking lot work now, we're putting in conduit underground, even though we may not put an electrical system in.
Yeah.
We've got pathways that are there,
So
so
you
we
can run
don't have
it
to go
when you need it.
back
Yeah.
and rip brand new parking lots up. So we're thinking about things like that.
Matt, do you know, like, our last capital budget vote, that passed pretty good majority, correct?
Mhm.
And then do we have any data of like when we've done a vote in May versus when we've done it at different times of year? Or something that maybe you can get together, like,
Would it-
I
would it-
don't know anything about that.
I don't even know if it's relevant, I'm
So we-
just curious.
So it was in 2018, when we did the December vote, it was 114 yes to 27 no. So turnout was generally lower. Yeah, it did pass. I would have to dig and know historically.
Yeah, no, that's fine, I
Our last
just-
vote would have been 06, maybe. So that's why we had that, we missed, Chad talks about this replenishment of that,
Mhm.
the maximum cost allowance. That doesn't scale at a rate that's equivalent of the rate at which things need to be done. So when you miss one of those rotations, miss one of those cycles, that's when you really get in trouble with infrastructure stuff. So, it's helpful to keep these things sort of moving along.
Might be also interesting to compare that turnout to your typical budget turnout, budget vote May turnout.
Mhm.
If you do end up linking it to May or putting it as a standalone. Just 140 people turned out, 120, 30 people turned out for that last one. that you mentioned.
That's significantly less than
Yeah.
budget.
A budget.
Budget.
But also once we'll be engaging with your fiscal advisors, they'll be breaking down the scope, budget versus tax impact, right? So like the goal, well, most likely, most of our districts now is neutral, tax neutral projects. So we don't exceed our MCA too much and have to go into the local share. We stay within that. Obviously, it's not all 100% state aided because we've got a state aid ratio, but that's where you'll get the data that says, all right, this is going to be either tax neutral or X cents per thousand, right? It's good information that will be coming before you're asked to make a decision.
Does anybody have other questions for Chad at this time?
I don't think so.
Thanks, Chad.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice to see everyone.
Appreciate it.
For
Thanks
the
for
rest of the
coming in
Yeah.
to do this presentation for us.
Anytime. Just on the road.
You as well. We'll see you soon.
Okay.
permission to proceed.
So see, I checkmarked this side of the paper, and it didn't stick out as far. That's fine, just saying.
It's a good excuse.
Good excuse, it is what it is.
It is.
Numbers are wrong, but, a motion to approve the following consent agenda, 4.1 through 5.1.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion on these items? Transportation, extracurricular treasurer's report, or the district emergency response plan? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That brings us to community participation time. Seeing one of our two guests left already, and not many are online. If you'd like to come forward, you're more than welcome to. State your name, and remember we have a 5-minute time limit.
Hello, I'm Colin Olson. I'm a senior here at HCS. And earlier, or I guess late in the school year last year, I applied to become a student member of this board, and I'm going to be very glad to join you guys.
Very
Thank
happy that you're here tonight.
Yeah.
Look forward to that part of the agenda.
Thanks.
Thank you, Colin.
Are you excited?
I'm excited.
Too bad that part's not next.
Nice.
All right. Again, no comments online yet. If somebody has a comment online, please type it in for our next comment period. Brings us to 7.1, which is personnel. A change in tenure area for Ashley Satoli. I need a motion to approve the resolution below, changing Ashley Satoli's tenure area as recommended by the elementary principal and the superintendent. I need to read the resolution. I do not. Great, thank you.
I'll move.
I'll second.
A discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the extracurricular, co-curricular advisors for 2024 and 2025 school year as provided per contractual language and recommended by the elementary principal, secondary principal, and superintendent.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Then we've got mentors for this year. I need a motion to approve Sue Lehman for Connor Carroll from September 1 through June 30 as recommended by the secondary principal and superintendent.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion? Thank you, Sue. All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to appoint Allison Farrar as a mentor for Rebecca Hamilton from September 1st to June 30th as recommended by the elementary principal and superintendent.
Second.
Any discussion? Thank you, Allison. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to appoint Elizabeth Merrill as a mentor for Brian Matella from September 1st through June 30th as recommended by the elementary principal and superintendent.
I'll move. Second.
Any discussion? Thank you, Liz. All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve William Walker as a substitute list, to the substitute list, sorry, as recommended by the transportation supervisor and the superintendent.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion? Glad to have you on that list. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Need a motion to approve the recommendation of the committees on special education and the preschool special education.
Move.
Second?
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good, not many. I need a motion to approve Colin Olson as an ex officio student board member for the 2024-2025 school year as recommended by the superintendent, secondary principal, and superintendent.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion?
Welcome.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. See, look how I need a motion to approve the FFA and Model UN overnight trips for 2024-2025 school year as provided and recommended by the secondary principal and superintendent. The Board of Education reserves the right to cancel the trips if circumstances should arise concerning the safety of the students.
I'll move. Second.
Any discussion? Where are, just so it's on record, where are they all headed?
So they are going to the National Convention,
Indianapolis,
Oswegatchie,
New York's Youth Ag Leadership
Ag
Conference.
Leadership, yep,
In Albany.
in Albany,
During the winter weekend.
yep.
Albany again for FFA convention, Camp Oswegatchie.
Great.
Good pieces.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, didn't forget this.
Model UN's going to Syracuse.
Thanks. I know those things. I need a motion to approve the 2022-2023 APPR implementation certification for 2024-2025 school year and submit to SED as recommended by the superintendent.
Move.
Second.
Any discussion? Let me just,
Yep, that is our existing APPR plan that we are currently working under. And then we'll use this year, as we've talked about, to revise our plan once we get guidance from SED on what we can include and what we can't include into that plan. So next year, we'll be approving the new plan to go into effect for 24,
Oh, okay.
or 25, 26.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea now of what different stuff you'll be looking at?
What we'll be looking at? Yeah, so it'll be more on goals, teacher growth, working with building principals and teachers individually on areas that they want to concentrate on. There'll be a district goal that we will ask everybody to. So we're looking at 3 goals, a district goal and then 2 teacher goals that will be mutually agreed upon by the principal and the teacher. And it'll be on professional growth practices within their classroom. So more meaningful.
Yeah.
I like how you're tying it into the district goals
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
That's great.
great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to accept the following monetary donation with sincere appreciation and increase the budget by this amount as recommended by the business manager and the superintendent.
I'll move.
Second.
Discussion?
Thank you. I do
Mhm.
this, month after month, and it's really appreciated.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the resolution declaring certain real property as surplus and approving the lease agreement between Hamilton Central School and Shenango Nursery School for operating a child care program as presented.
Move.
Second.
And we will do a roll call vote from there, but before we do that, is there any discussion?
All the teachers that are going to be moving around have been notified.
Yep,
and
they're already,
all good.
everyone's
They're-
moved and in
Okay,
their new
great.
places and settling in and getting ready.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Other questions, comments?
Nope.
Okay. So for the roll call vote, Mr. Che?
Aye.
Oh, sorry. You have to do it? Go ahead.
Dr. Duclos.
Aye.
Mrs. Phillips.
Aye.
Mrs. Jones.
Aye.
Mrs. Jacobson.
Aye. Yeah, it'd be hard to do that. Motion passed. Motion to approve Hamilton's participation in the following combined sports programs for 2024-2025 as recommended by the athletic coordinator and the superintendent. That's varsity field hockey with Morrisville Eaton, tentatively, that's 1 player. And modified and varsity football with Waterville, tentatively, that's 1 varsity player and 3 modified players.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion? I really thought we did football already. I really thought we did football already. No?
I just wanted to say thank you for putting the tentative numbers in there, knowing that somebody was going to ask every time. So thank you for doing that.
Great.
You're welcome.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And good luck to those students. Thank you
Yes.
for participating in this. That brings us to information and correspondence. Turn it over to Mr. Dennison.
So we have been busy preparing for our opening. We had our administrative retreat last week. We spent the day talking about our book reads. I want to share with you, we're doing some professional development as administrators, and we have 2 books that we're doing a read through. These are just a quick bio of the books and what the main points of the book are. So the first book is The Culture Code by Daniel Coyle, and it just talks about various high-performing teams and building a culture that fosters a strong and cohesive team. And it's built around 3 areas: building safety, which is creating an environment where members feel safe and connected, clear communication and sense of belonging, and innovation and risk-taking, sharing vulnerability as leaders, encouraging our team members to be open and vulnerable, trying to incorporate more of a trust and cooperation culture, and then establishing purpose, clearly defining our group's goals and values to create a shared vision and drive. And that will be my message to faculty and staff, really emphasizing on what does every student every day mean to us, and what does that look like, what does that mean, what are we doing on a day-to-day basis to live out our mission. In this book, we talked about it as an administrative team, and using this book as kind of our compass to guide us through that. The second book is Radical Candor by Kim Scott. It's improving communication and relationships by balancing care and directness. So having courageous conversations and being direct, but doing it in an empathetic manner. Pushing each of us to get better every day, identifying some strengths and weaknesses, and being frank about our weaknesses and how we can overcome them to improve on a day-to-day basis. So those are 2 books that we talked about. We had a really good discussion around them, and what does that look like as building leaders. So we'll be using these 2 books to guide us this year as an administrative team. The second thing I would like to talk to you about are cell phones. We had another meeting with our parent group of stakeholders, and we also had 7 middle school teachers and staff members. And there was a unanimous discussion and decision that we should be putting cell phones away for the day at the middle school level. And the question posed was, what educational value do cell phones bring to our middle school students throughout the day? And the consensus was there really isn't an educational value. There's a ton of research out right now that has been shared with us and that we discussed surrounding the negative effects of cell phones and what they're doing to mental health and to our teens. So we have decided that we will put cell phones away for the day in the middle school. This is a sample letter that will go out to our middle school, actually to all families on Monday. Mr. Arquette will send this out, talking about what does that look like. So middle schoolers will come in, they'll ask, their phones will be put away in a locker that will be locked for the day. And at the end of the day, they can retrieve them. If they need to make a phone call, they can come to the office. Just logistically, what does that look like? And we understand that there are students that have anxiety, and what we're going to do to help those students with anxiety. We understand that there's parents that may disagree with this and want to have connectiveness to their children throughout the day, and what does that look like? So we think this is a real positive move to create more of an engaging, learning-centered atmosphere within our building. So we are going to move forward with this.
I don't understand the phone storage.
I don't understand that either.
So the phone storage is a locker. We're not doing, some schools are doing yonder
Yeah.
pouches where the students come in, they put them in a pouch, it locks for the day. We're purchasing these storage lockers, kind of like a mailbox. And students will come in, go to their homeroom, and then they'll have a slot that they're assigned to. Their phone will go in there. Once all the phones are in, it'll be locked. And then at the end of the day, it'll be unlocked and they can retrieve their phone and go.
Is it like unlocked so that they're all exposed, or is there like a code or something?
No,
Or, like, how do we ensure somebody doesn't take the wrong phone, or they're quick and take that?
It'll be assigned numbers, so if, you know, you're assigned number 10, your phone goes in there, and that's where it goes. And if it's not there, then we'll find you, administrator will find you and say, where's your phone? It needs to go into the locker. And then it'll be locked up, and then at the end of the day, it'll be unlocked. Or if you need it for an emergency, then you'll have to go to the office, whoever will unlock it, retrieve the phone. But it'll be in a secured, locked environment.
Where are these lockers located?
That's what we're working
Outside every-
on. So we talked initially about putting them in the main hallway. We kind of got away from that. They're going to be in homeroom classrooms. So that's what Mark is working on logistically, what that's going to look like right now.
How does that work when a kid comes in late or has to leave early?
So they'll have to go to the office, probably have to give it to Mrs. Reese, and then go right to class, because they won't be able to go into that locker and interrupt the class. So those are all things that
Right,
Mark
and at the end
is.
of the, like if I have to leave at 1 o'clock or
Yep.
something, how do I
Yeah,
go
so
get
you'll
my phone?
probably
in there?
report to the main office, and
How
Mrs.
do
Reese
you-
will have to get it.
How do you know, like, if, I worry about that, because some kids will have to get picked up without notice.
Mhm.
Sometimes
Yeah,
they
I
won't know in
worry.
the morning
Mm-hmm.
that their parent got them a doctor's appointment for 2 o'clock.
Yep, yep.
So then, like, I think there's some logistics that.
Yeah, and we'll work through those. I mean, they'll have to come to the main office, and then Miss Reese will walk down and get the phone, or Mark, or whoever will retrieve the phone for them. So,
Yeah, I
there's
mean-
logistical things we're gonna
Yeah,
have
I
to
mean,
work
if
through.
there's, again, if there's emergencies, somebody falls somewhere and has to leave quickly,
Yep.
that's, I can just see that.
Yep. Yep.
Does this plan include just phones or other communication devices as well?
Right now, just phones. So we talked about earbuds and smartwatches. Right now, we don't have a problem with that. So we're kind of working through, this is the initial plan, and we'll work through if those problems arise. So, but right now, it does not include those to be locked up, just phones.
And will some of these, the details of this protocol be included in the handbook as well?
Yes. Yeah.
What is our process for do we think that there could be misuse now with like the Chromebooks and things like that? Like them getting on different things for communication, or
I'm always
are we,
trying.
are we gonna be using emails for things now, or?
You know, you do.
Okay,
It's a whack-a-mole. It's part of the job.
okay. I just worry about some of that now.
We do our very best to keep everything educationally focused. We need to hire some of these kids, frankly. Find some ways around stuff.
You know, and we're hopeful with the storage lockers, it'll alleviate some of the pressure off the teachers
Yes.
for enforcement and policing.
Right.
You know, they're away for the day, they're locked up, they're secure, so it should help.
I just think about them getting creative with the email, like, hey, I can't text you now in between, we're gonna start,
They actually use Google Docs a lot
that's what,
more often.
okay, that was my
So
other,
they're already
Mhm.
on top.
they're already doing that, okay,
Um,
But again, that's
Can you
when they
vouch
have
for
their
that?
computer up and.
right.
Yep.
Yeah, so, but, I mean, we get alerts if there's any terse language. You know, we've got as many sort of mitigation things in as we can, but we
Yeah.
can't very well turn off Google Docs.
Right.
That would shut everything
But
down.
yeah, it's also
Yeah.
a whole different thing, right?
Yeah.
To have like a Google Doc that you intentionally have to go into instead of having your phone's buzzing in your pocket or whatever.
Right.
Like, it's a very
Mhm.
different
Mhm.
thing.
And
Like,
knowing
the
that-
idea is like they shouldn't have communication outside the building. It's
Mm,
these devices themselves are
Right.
they're created to rob attention,
Yeah.
and so it's
Yeah.
the device itself, not just the idea of
Mhm.
them communicating.
There's a bigger concern with social media as well during the day, and
Which we have blocked,
not on the phones though.
Right.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you, Bill,
Yeah.
and to your team
Yeah.
for working with parents and teachers through this. And I know it's been a process.
It has, yeah. Yep.
I have one other question. How do you determine numbers? Is it just one mailbox for every
Yeah.
kid? But like
Yeah.
a lot of 6th graders don't have phones yet, but you know, 8th graders might. Or do you do a survey to know how many boxes you need to get?
We just went on enrollment.
One per
Yeah, we
kid.
just ordered enough boxes for total enrollment. And if
Okay.
they don't have a phone, then that box will just stay empty.
Okay,
And we'll communicate that, I'm sure the parents will communicate saying my child doesn't have a phone, so.
yeah,
And there are families kids that don't have phones,
yeah,
so.
much to my daughter's chagrin.
I think as much as we can do in the education part on, for parents, you know,
Yes.
during back to school night and everything, if there's
Yeah.
as much education we can
Mhm.
get out about why this is happening and why it's beneficial and
Yeah.
how the logistics will run and,
Yeah.
I think that'll be
Yeah.
really useful.
We included some links that, in the letter that will go out, to some research on the backside of the page
Mhm.
that parents can access about, you know, the negativities of cell phones in schools and the research behind why we're moving to this, and we're trying to protect the mental health of our students, so.
Yeah,
And maybe along with it, you know, Chris, maybe if you had like some handouts on, you know, how to limit your kids' access to certain harmful things on their phones, or even like the watches, how to make sure that they're, you know, reducing as much stuff as they can.
At open house.
open house,
Yeah.
yeah.
Some of that would be
Have
great.
that sort of information.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I'd love to see some education around.
Mhm.
And you guys have a procedure for those parents that are just saying, my kid is not turning this in, I'm not doing this, I'm refusing this,
It's gonna be, it might be difficult at first, you know, and there
But it
might.
was last year too, with
Yeah.
students and
Yep.
Mhm.
the change that we had last year. I mean, I know that didn't settle well right at first, but a
Yeah.
month in, the groaning was minimal.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Probably wasn't gone, but it was minimal, I think, at that point, you know, and I think change is hard, but it's also important. So.
It is, and our high school protocols are gonna remain the same. We're gonna push to be more consistent throughout the year and throughout the building. So, you know, everybody has a role in this.
so at the high school level, it's still away during class times?
Yeah.
And then you can use it in passing periods and at lunch?
And at lunch,
Okay.
yeah,
So at the high school level, the teachers are still having to police a little bit, but
yeah,
that's just
Yeah.
how it goes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Go ahead, John. Oh, no, I don't know.
One thing I will ask is,
Yeah.
has there been consideration given to students bringing in iPads to do schoolwork? Because I know those can still have access to social media and like SMS texting, that kind of thing.
I'll let Mr. Rogers weigh in on that.
It's been a troublesome topic, because my initial stance when I first got here was to absolutely like ban personal devices from our network. But we've had a lot of situations, you probably know a lot of students who are either BOCES or work study or other places, and they have their own device. So that's something that we should probably discuss as an admin team, is whether to go back to that. I mean, we say this all the time, for the most part, our kids are pretty good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But if we really want to stop that stuff, we do provide a device for every kid. And that's something we should revisit.
Mhm.
And I mean, you know, some of these devices have got mobile chips on them anyway, right? Lots of iPad students, so you need to be on the Wi-Fi. So yeah, that's something that we should discuss.
The last thing I wanted to
Good point.
update you on is, as we look at efficiencies and work through some of our budgetary constraints, we are moving the district to central printing. So Chris has been very involved and knee-deep in transferring the district and transitioning the district over to central printing. So I want Chris to give a little update on to where we are at in that process.
On the topic of change being hard, yeah, so like Bill said, this is very much in keeping with the objective of making the district as efficient as possible and making the technology department as efficient as possible. district this size is always going to have a very small technology department. So, you know, the more of these efficiencies that we can create, the better, and it's going to save us a lot of money in the long run. Software is actually really remarkable, and as I've been setting it up, I learned a lot about it. So we are on the final lap. All of the devices are here. We've set up the print server. All the devices are talking to the print server. Tomorrow the card readers will arrive. I've got some configuration to do, and then I need to push it out to the teachers' machines. But I think we're on track. Looks good.
They're huge. I saw the one, I was like, these things are monsters. There's like.
Yeah, it's remarkable though how much less it costs to print from those machines than the little tabletop ones. You know, and one of the neat things about the print server software is that you can actually track costs. So, you know, we have our we had Ed tell us how much it costs to print a color page or to print a black and white page, and then we can have tallies every month about how much we're spending on these consumables, and find some areas of efficiency for sure.
So central printing, how many central printings do we have?
So we have 8
Okay.
printers,
Where are they located?
all over the place. So we've got one just above us in the library. We've got one in the high school guidance office, one in the right outside of the break room on this floor. And then we've got the district office. We've got the elementary print room, elementary office, CSE office, elementary library.
So we strategically placed them throughout the building so staff could not have huge transition times to get to the printers. So they're strategically placed throughout the building. Because in the past, every teacher had a little tabletop printer in their room, and they were past their useful life. They were costing a lot of money. Chris and Morgan were constantly having to fix them, and it was just not cost effective for the
They're probably all
district.
different cartridges that are just sitting around and need to be ordered.
Yep.
And this, you print to it, but it doesn't actually print until you have your code in?
Yeah, so it's actually pretty neat the way that it works. I think, I'm hoping, I know it says future stars, that teachers will find it actually kind of convenient. So you no longer pick a printer to print to, right? The system doesn't care. So you print to our print server, right? And you can walk to any one of these 8 printers, touch your badge, and those pages will come out.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's called follow me. They could do it.
I'd have so much fun trying it.
I know, can we get
Can
access to
we
this?
just have fun just printing around the building?
Sure.
I
Great.
like that.
If you guys have any other questions about it?
Well, if they have like a lot of printing to do, they then have to stand there and wait for all these pages to print out. They can't print something in advance and then go pick it up, presumably.
No. That was a place where we had great inefficiency before.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you how many piles of papers that janitorial staff removed from printers and had been print out and never collected.
Huh.
So what will happen now will be, we set a certain time frame. If you don't go and pick up your cue inside of that time frame, it'll disappear. You don't have to send it again. Just talk to either of the art teachers about the piles of paper.
Oh.
So we're excited about that efficiency for
Yeah.
sure.
Cool.
Great, thank you. And thank you.
Yeah.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thanks for getting that set up.
That brings us to, and just so Colin knows, we'll have a student section in here next month, so you'll have a chance to speak right around this time. But tonight we'll go to the business manager report. Kind of did that already?
And I am
Wow.
not gonna steal anyone's thunder.
Yeah, it's because there's nothing super good to report, man.
Knowledge sharing, so I have nothing.
Okay.
I do want to say one thing. Just a lot of credit to support staff this summer. They worked really hard. The building looks great. I think we're in good shape now as far as schedule. We're starting to come back. We're getting close. So we'll be ready.
We're ready.
Well,
We're
thank you,
working hard,
yes,
so,
to
yeah,
that
it's
staff.
good.
Wonderful.
Can I go, I'll put it under Bill Superintendent report quickly. I'm just wondering, like, we look good for athletics, we're all ready to go, all of our
Yep.
teams look good.
Yep.
We're having all the teams we plan on.
Yep, all the teams that we had planned on, the numbers are going to support. Right now, it looks like we're not going to be, the only caveat to that, we're not going to be able to support a modified cross-country team. So we only have three students signed up for that. So we're going to give them to the 26th to increase numbers. If the numbers don't allow for a team to be had, we won't be able to run modified cross-country. All other numbers are good.
Can they join another team?
Yeah, yeah. So Debbie Welsh is going to reach out to the parents of those 3 students and encourage them to sign up for another sport.
Can they run for a different district if?
No,
So they
no,
can't combine.
no,
Okay.
no. There's no combining opportunities.
And in order for them to move to a varsity, they would have to test
They would
to
have to take-
qualify for
correct.
varsity, correct?
Yep, yep. Through the selective classification process.
Good.
Yep.
How many students do you need?
For modified 6,
Okay.
6 to score.
Knowledge sharing. Guess I'll start. Corey and I went to, what did we go to? We went to something.
Rockefeller.
The
Rockefeller.
Rockefeller Institute open meeting, and we went to Lawrence for that. As we got there, we wondered why they chose that as the Central New York location. Although there were a lot of schools there, there was not a lot of schools there at the same time. There was less than 20 people that spoke. We had a 2-minute time frame, which was really stressful because there was a clock in front of you and it counted down, which could be fun here. It was really stressful. And so we were able to talk about everything we wanted in those 2 minutes related to the foundation aid. And so Corey and I both spoke on behalf of Hamilton, and several other districts were there and represented small rural schools, which was good. There is a link that I shared with you guys today, so please make sure you fill that out before the end of this month. The deadline's actually like the 6th of September, but I'm saying September 1st, let's just get ours.
Yep, I did it.
And anybody else out there that wants to advocate for specific things in foundation aid, you too can join in the foundation aid study through this write-in. Just let us know if you want the link. And I think that's it on that. So it was good. I'm glad we went.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Lawrence is not an easy place to get to.
It's just a hop, skip, and a jump
Yeah.
from Morris.
Mm-mm.
That's where we go camping every year.
Yeah.
It's like,
We're right over there.
yeah.
Anything else for knowledge sharing?
Corey and I went to the NISBA Law Conference and the Leadership Conference. I won't go through everything that it was jam-packed with a lot of content, so I won't go through everything, but I did share a lot of the presentation material in the shared Google Docs with everyone on the board.
Yes,
Thank you for that.
Very helpful.
Just briefly going through some of the sessions that we attended. School budgeting. They did a session also on just a review of new laws and regulations. That, Bill, if you want to sit down and go through that at some point, we can do that. Transgender and gender expressive students' rights, which is very relevant this year. Student discipline, and we also attended a session on teacher shortage and academic achievement. So all of them very topical, Obviously, things that have been in our radar, and very, very important for this year. So it was very helpful to go.
Thank you guys for
Yeah,
taking the
thanks.
time for that.
Yeah. One thing I got the sense of is that there's a sense of SED kind of changing their parameters a lot. Not changing their parameters, I should say, like taking a more active role in a lot of issues over, I think especially post-COVID, where they were left without a lot of guidance from the state. They kind of took some initiative on their own and felt like that's where they're going. And we heard some speakers from the state education department that kind of gave this, that was kind of their message. It was kind of nice to hear them talk about these things. It seems like they have a good sense of the challenges that are faced across the state in different areas, and are willing to kind of take those head on. So it's interesting to see how this plays out, especially with the Foundation Aid study and how they are able to kind of take a more of a lead role in that than they have in the past. Hopefully that leads to some good outcomes for all of us.
I think it's helpful from state ed. Dr. Jeff Madison is the new deputy commissioner. He's actually a native of Morrisville and understands rural schools and understands this district and understands our surrounding districts. So we have an advocate there and a voice now in state ed, and he is really being proactive in exactly what Corey said, providing more guidance and more support to districts, and particularly rural districts, so helpful.
Anything else before we move on to advocacy? Okay, Jen, how are you?
Tuesday, I attended the Resolutions Committee meeting for NISBA, 3.5 hours, so it was a pretty short one. So there were 37 resolutions that were submitted. We went through, discussed, and basically we voted on which ones will go forward for recommendation at the annual meeting. So 23 of them were voted to move forward, 14 were not recommended. So what happens when you go through the annual meeting, you go through all the recommended, and then we still go through the non-recommended, but a lot of times there's not really discussion, they just kind of stay in that bucket. So that meeting, the annual meeting will take place on October 10th. I obviously thank you, Jody, for registering me. I'm officially registered as our voting delegate. As you guys know, that meeting was just short of like 8 hours last year. So they have put a couple, so the year before it was like 6.5 hours. This year, like I said, it starts at 4. So add 8 hours onto that, it was like, so they put a committee together to make recommendations on how to make that better. Apparently they can't like split it up. It would be like us like splitting a board meeting up. They have to do it as special meetings and all this other stuff. So there were 3 recommendations that got put forward to try to minimize that. So now they're actually going to be doing a pre-business meeting. So this meeting won't be 8 hours, but now there's a pre-business meeting to go to. But that'll give any voting delegates the opportunity to ask questions on any of them, so that when it comes time for the annual business meeting, it'll be more of just like a debate for it or against it, instead of trying to get all the questions out of the way as well. They've shortened the debate time from 10 minutes to 6 minutes, and then each individual speaker used to have 2 minutes, and they've limited that to 1. So you can still vote to actually extend the debate, which is kind of what kept happening last year. They kept voting to like extend the debate, and finally, like towards the end, people were like, well, I'm moving to end this debate. Like it was kind of wacky. But so that'll be taking place. There's some really good recommendations that came forward for NISBA advocacy efforts. Ironically, one of them is to petition for, instead of zero emissions buses, push more towards hybrid buses. And so that was kind of the first time I really heard a lot about that, and there were some numbers proposed, and those buses are actually a lot cheaper. They're not a lot more than our current diesel buses, and there's a lot more like flexibility with that. So I thought that that would
Less training opportunities?
less training opportunities. So
I don't know.
yeah, so that was kind of an interesting resolution that obviously we talked about for a little bit, and so maybe more to come on a whole new avenue for buses. And that was kind of it. And I guess I should have mentioned this probably under knowledge sharing, but the convention schedule is out. I think Michelle and I are the only two going.
Yeah.
But I
Those
felt,
guys wants to, but we registered right away.
yeah, so I thought that it was really interesting. They have put it all into tracks this year. So you don't necessarily have to go to them, but like if you're interested in certain topics and things, you can actually select the track and then see everything that's kind of in that. And I think there was like 10 or 12 tracks. And the very first keynote speaker is Sophia, which is an AI robot. And she's the main big keynote speaker. So that,
That's interesting.
I
Interesting.
was very, I don't know how I feel about that. So I'll let you know after.
I'll let you know.
But it seems like a lot on AI and really getting policies in your district and things like that. So that part of it will be interesting. So that's all I have.
Jen, was there any talk at the state level through your advocacy about Governor Hochul's proposed cell phone bans? Was that brought up?
It was brought up a bit, not in the resolutions committee, but in some other, it's so divided.
Yeah.
But I do think that she's gonna be releasing something.
Mhm.
I'm surprised she hasn't already.
There was one resolution that was that any, whatever changes, there would need to be funding for that. But I don't know.
So that resolution, so there was a lot of conversation, yeah, so I take that back. There was some conversation about it. But more in the fact of that resolution it was discussed a lot because of the way that they wrote
Yeah,
it.
was weirdly written.
It was very weirdly written. So I don't remember the exact verbiage because there was 37 of them. But the way it was written was more of like NISBA advocating either like for it or against it versus more of just the funding for it. So we actually put that one forward to the school that proposed it to rewrite it. So that it was more on the funding and so that it would cover, so say Governor Hochul next year institutes something and they say, okay, there's funding for it now. So that districts who maybe decided to do it last year would still be able to get reimbursement because they decided to do it ahead of
Okay.
everybody else. So like the lockers, for example,
Yeah.
we decided to do that now. So if funding becomes available, we would be able to submit
Reimbursement,
that for
okay.
reimbursement.
Good.
Is like the advocacy push on that.
Mhm.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
So that takes us to the NISBA's annual business meeting, continued. That there's a virtual meeting on October 10th, as Jen just discussed. Well, that is our board meeting. It'd be really helpful for Jen if she didn't have to sit through both at the same time.
Please.
Or if she could attend ours and that.
Well, and it also gives all of you, so just because you're not a voting delegate, they do send out a link, so anybody's more than welcome to sit and listen. So it also would give all of you that opportunity as well.
So the big question is, can we change our October meeting? And if so, can I look to see what day that would work for October? So it's supposed to be on the 10th, which is actually conference day of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Superintendent's Day.
Michelle, one thing to keep in mind, the board has to adopt the audit by October 15th.
So I'm wondering if we can actually do earlier.
I'll let them know as soon as we know when the meeting is.
Could we do the 8th or the 9th instead of the 10th? look like for everybody?
The 9th would be better for me, just because there's no soccer game. I'm not gonna miss it, but I could definitely do that.
You can see it's worth it.
Either of those days work for me.
Or does that work?
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do either day.
Does it work for you? Yeah.
And then
Matt,
8th.
Chris, you good with the 9th?
Chris?
Who do what?
October 9th?
It's a long weekend, so
Yeah.
it might be better for.
Yeah. It's Columbus Day weekend, so.
Yeah.
9th?
So we'll move it to the 9th instead.
Thank you, guys.
Yes. Yep.
Great,
We
so
move
that,
policy, I assume we'll do our policies, committees.
Yeah.
so we'll move policy as well, just so
Yeah.
that's part of the record. So we'll move policy and board meeting.
So auditors typically come preceding the board meeting.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, so no,
Policies haven't been scheduled yet, nothing has
Okay.
been advertised, so we're good.
okay, so move to the 9th with audit.
With audit. Okay.
Hopefully they can make that.
Thank you
Audit
again.
partner. Thank you, everybody. When we, the last board update is when we adjourn and we take our quick break to go into exec, we're gonna get a quick picture of our this year team with Colin. Okay. So right now I will open it up to the general public and invite people to speak. Please remember the time frame. There's somebody else watching, but no, nothing in the chat and nobody moving in the room. So with that, I will say that when we do go into exec session, we will not be voting, so we will not be coming back online afterwards. And I think that's where we're at. Can I have a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss matters pertaining to the employment history of particular persons?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we'll take a 10-minute recess.